A narcissist's cruelty does not always reveal itself immediately. At first, it can even appear unintentional, as though their sharp words, dismissive tone, or cold neglect are simply lapses in awareness. But there comes a moment when the mask slips, when the facade of care and civility cracks, and you glimpse something far more chilling. They are not simply indifferent to your pain, they relish it. What begins as manipulation for control transforms into a spectacle for their own gratification. This is the terrifying shift from exploitation to sadism, from using you as a resource to delighting in your suffering. The psychology behind this stage is rooted in emptiness. A narcissist, at their core, is hollow, desperately patching together an identity from admiration, dominance, and control. Early on, your compliance and validation serve to fill that void. But once you stop providing unquestioned praise or dare to assert independence, the narcissist's hunger changes. They no longer seek you as a source of supply. They seek you as a target for destruction. Your distress, your tears, your trembling voice become a reflection of their power. In that moment, pain ceases to be an unfortunate byproduct of their behavior and becomes the very goal. Consider how this plays out in relationships. A partner who once demanded constant attention suddenly provokes arguments just to watch you unravel. A parent who once projected expectations begins to shame and ridicule in public, savoring the humiliation on your face. A colleague or boss doesn't just criticize mistakes, they wait for opportunities to dismantle your confidence in front of others. Each of these scenarios reveals the same underlying dynamic. They are not satisfied with winning, they want to see you lose. The narcissist delights in the spectacle of your collapse because in their mind, your suffering is proof of their superiority. One of the most insidious aspects of this stage is its subtlety. They rarely show this sadism openly to outsiders. Instead, they reserve it for private moments where only you can see the glint in their eyes when you break down, the smirk hidden at the corner of their mouth when you stutter, the satisfaction that radiates when your shoulders slump under the weight of despair. To the world, they may still appear charming, respectable, even admirable. But behind closed doors, they orchestrate scenarios designed to wound, and then sit back as if attending a private performance. Psychologically, what drives this pleasure is not mere cruelty, it is validation inverted. In the narcissist's mind, if your suffering increases, their power grows. Every tear is a victory, every silence is submission, every breakdown is a reminder that they have the ability to fracture another human soul. Unlike ordinary conflict, where one might feel guilt or remorse after inflicting pain, the narcissist in this stage feels energized. Your pain becomes fuel. The very thing that would cause a healthy person to pause in shame becomes, for them, a reinforcement of their dominance. The celebration of your pain also serves another function. It distracts them from their own inner void. When they see you crumble, they momentarily forget their own insecurities, their own failures, their own sense of insignificance. Destroying you becomes a way to silence the unbearable silence within themselves. For a fleeting moment, your tears drown out their emptiness. But because this relief is temporary, they seek it again and again, orchestrating new scenarios, pushing new buttons, escalating their cruelty to ever greater extremes. It is crucial to understand that at this stage, the narcissist is no longer playing the same game they once played. In the earlier phases, they wanted admiration, loyalty, and submission. Now, they want your despair. They want to see the life force drained from your eyes. They want the satisfaction of knowing that their existence has corrupted your joy. It is not about resources, attention, or even control anymore. It is about desecration. They want to feel like gods, not by creating life, but by extinguishing it. When you watch closely, you'll notice the rituals they create around this. The deliberate delay in responding to your needs just to watch you squirm, the calculated silence after a cutting remark, allowing the words to fester and grow like poison in your mind, the way they provoke, then retreat, observing how long it takes before you collapse. Each action is precise, like an experiment, and your suffering is the result they savor. Perhaps the most horrifying revelation is that they begin to find beauty in your pain. They may describe your tears as weakness, mock your trembling voice, or laugh at your attempts to defend yourself. In their mind, this is entertainment, a theater of domination in which they are both playwright and director. The more deeply you suffer, the more triumphant they feel. It is the cruelest inversion of intimacy. What should be compassion becomes exploitation. What should be love becomes sadism. What should be connection becomes desecration. This stage is terrifying not only because of what it reveals about them, but also because of what it does to you. Over time, the victim begins to internalize the performance, expecting ridicule, bracing for attack, living in a state of hypervigilance. Every word is weighed, every silence monitored, every interaction charged with the fear of being broken again. And when the narcissist senses that fear, it only amplifies their delight. The cycle feeds itself endlessly until the victim feels as though they are no longer a person, but an instrument for another's entertainment. The celebration of your pain is the moment where humanity leaves the narcissist entirely. They are no longer a wounded child seeking love, no longer a manipulator seeking control, no longer a fragile ego seeking validation. They become something far more chilling, a predator who thrives on the destruction of spirit, who drinks deeply from the suffering of others as though it were the only nourishment capable of keeping them alive. When a narcissist first enters your life, their lies often appear small, almost harmless, like smudges on a glass surface. They might exaggerate a success, downplay a failure, or twist a detail to appear more admirable. At that stage, the deception is strategic, meant to maintain an image and extract admiration. But as the narcissist descends into darkness, the scale and nature of their falsehoods change. They no longer distort reality for advantage. They invert it completely. Wrong becomes right, cruelty becomes love, betrayal becomes loyalty. In this twisted inversion, truth is not merely ignored, it is annihilated. The terrifying part is how methodical this process becomes. In the beginning, you notice contradictions. What they say one day doesn't align with what they said yesterday. You might question it, only to be told you misunderstood, misremembered, or are imagining things. Slowly, this tactic eats away at your confidence. Each denial forces you to question your own perception. What you saw, what you heard, what you felt, it all comes under suspicion. Not because it was ever unclear, but because the narcissist insists their version is the only reality that matters. This is gaslighting elevated into something darker. Gaslighting, in its simplest form, seeks to make you doubt yourself. But inversion of reality goes further. It demands that you abandon your truth and adopt theirs. If they wound you, you must call it love. If they betray you, you must name it devotion. If they humiliate you, you must redefine it as guidance. It is not enough for them to silence your voice. They want to replace it with theirs, to overwrite your inner compass so thoroughly that you cannot distinguish between what is real and what is false. The psychological impact of this inversion is profound. Humans rely on shared reality to orient themselves in the world. Our memories, our perceptions, and emotions create the map by which we navigate relationships and decisions. When a narcissist inverts reality, they steal that map from you. They tear it up and hand you a counterfeit version where their lies are landmarks, their manipulations are roads, and their cruelty is the horizon. Once you begin using their map, you are lost, wandering a landscape that makes no sense but feels impossible to escape. This process is not accidental. The narcissist understands, perhaps unconsciously, that control over reality itself is the most complete form of power. If they can make you doubt your senses, they never have to fear being confronted. If they can rewrite events, they never have to take responsibility. If they can dictate the definitions of love, loyalty, or truth, they can abuse you endlessly while still demanding your gratitude. It is a psychological tyranny where freedom does not end with your actions, but with your very ability to think clearly. One of the most disturbing aspects of this inversion is its communal effect. A narcissist rarely confines their manipulations to one person. They weave webs of contradictory narratives among friends, family, or colleagues, ensuring that no two people have the same version of events. This fragmentation serves a purpose. It isolates you, making you feel as though your perspective is the only one that doesn't fit. And when you finally speak out, you may be met not with support, but with confusion, disbelief, or even accusations. The narcissist has already inverted reality for others, making your truth appear like madness. This inversion is not only psychological, but moral. A narcissist who has crossed into evil no longer hides behind justifications. They openly glorify the very actions that once needed excuses. Betrayal becomes proof of intelligence. Exploitation becomes evidence of strength. Cruelty becomes a badge of honor. In their mind, they are not breaking rules, they are rewriting them. And if you object, it is not because they have done wrong, but because you are too weak, too naive, too limited to understand. They will never admit to corruption because, in their inverted world, corruption is brilliance. In personal relationships, this inversion takes the shape of emotional captivity. You may begin to echo their language, repeating the very phrases that once wounded you. You tell yourself they hurt you because they care, or that their silence is a test of your loyalty. Over time, your internal dialogue shifts from recognition of abuse to rationalization of abuse. And when that shift is complete, they no longer need to gaslight you. You gaslight yourself. You become a prisoner in your own mind, guarding the very walls they built around you. What makes this stage so terrifying is the way it corrodes identity. If you cannot trust your senses, your memories, or your emotions, then who are you? If every truth you hold can be inverted at will, then what remains of your individuality? This is not just psychological harm, it is existential theft. The narcissist does not simply control your actions. They colonize your mind, leaving you unable to distinguish your own voice from theirs. And perhaps the most chilling realization comes when you see that they enjoy it. Their satisfaction does not come merely from winning arguments or escaping accountability. Their triumph lies in watching you abandon yourself, in witnessing the erosion of your reality. Each time you surrender your truth, they grow stronger. Each time you redefine their abuse as love, they become more certain of their power. This is not manipulation for survival or validation. It is the deliberate destruction of another human being's capacity to perceive the world. The inversion of reality is the narcissist's final fortress of control. By turning truth upside down, they create a world where they are always innocent, always right, always powerful. And in that world, you are always guilty, always wrong, always small. The terrifying part is not just that they demand this inversion, it's that under enough pressure, you begin to believe it. There comes a point in the descent of a narcissist where the facade of humanity is no longer just thin. It is gone. The traits that once made them appear charming, witty, or magnetic remain on the surface, but underneath, the depth has vanished. At this stage, what you are encountering is not merely a manipulator or a broken ego searching for attention. You are confronting something far more chilling, the death of the soul. This is not death in the physical sense, but the hollowing out of conscience, compassion, and humanity until only a shell remains. Early on, a narcissist still wears their mask with intention. They perform kindness to win trust, they project vulnerability to elicit sympathy, and they imitate empathy to keep people tethered to them. But repetition creates transformation. Over time, they no longer need to act consciously. The mask fuses with their identity. They are not pretending to be deceitful, manipulative, and self-serving. They are those things. The performance ends not because they drop it, but because the mask has become their only face. At this point, interactions with them feel uncanny. You sense the absence of something fundamental, though you cannot always put it into words. Their eyes may sparkle, their laughter may sound convincing, their words may flow with confidence, but none of it reaches inward. There is no reciprocity, no recognition of your essence, no true meeting of one soul with another. You are not relating to a whole person anymore. You are standing before an empty structure animated by hunger for control, attention, and power. The death of the soul reveals itself in their inability to feel guilt or remorse. In earlier stages, they may at least feign regret to keep you bound. They may apologize, cry, or promise change when confronted. But as the soul decays, even that illusion disappears. They no longer feel the need to disguise cruelty as an accident. They can wound you and walk away without hesitation, without reflection, without the faintest flicker of conscience. In their eyes, the harm done to you is not wrong, it is irrelevant. This stage is also marked by the loss of curiosity about growth or change. A healthy human being, no matter how flawed, carries within them a seed of self-awareness, the capacity to question, to doubt, to evolve. But when the narcissist's soul has withered, that seed is extinguished. They do not ask if they might be wrong. They do not wonder if they could be better. They no longer even entertain the thought of becoming whole, because the very concept of wholeness requires a center they no longer possess. For those entangled with such a person, the experience is suffocating. Every attempt to connect feels like speaking into a void. You may bare your heart, but it will echo back empty. You may show kindness, but it will vanish into nothing. You may try to reason, but the dialogue circles endlessly as though your words never landed. What you are sensing is not mere stubbornness. It is the absence of an inner life that can receive, reflect, or respond. You are trying to build a bridge to something that no longer exists. The death of the soul also manifests in their perception of others. People are no longer seen as individuals with dignity, feelings, or complexity. They become objects, tools, or obstacles. Relationships are no longer connections, they are arenas of dominance. Love is not a bond, it is leverage. Even pain is not recognized as pain. It is data, a signal of control gained or control lost. To interact with someone at this stage is to realize that your humanity has no resonance for them. They cannot see you because they cannot feel you. Perhaps the most disturbing quality of this stage is the sense of permanence. In earlier phases, there are moments, fleeting, fragile, where you see glimpses of humanity like a flash of light beneath the surface. But once the soul has withered, those glimpses vanish. The light is gone, and what remains is darkness that does not seek illumination. The narcissist has ceased to be a wounded human in search of healing. They have become a hollow predator in search of sustenance. Their only drive is to consume and to dominate, not because they want more, but because they cannot be anything else. The image of emptiness becomes unavoidable. You notice it in their inability to enjoy beauty without turning it into competition, in their incapacity to witness joy without seeking to tarnish it, in their refusal to honor truth unless it serves their image. These are not mere flaws, they are symptoms of absence. It is as though the core of their being has been hollowed out, leaving only a shell that mimics humanity. And while that shell may fool outsiders, those who have been close to it know the truth. It is like staring into a mirror that reflects nothing back. What makes this stage terrifying is not simply that they lack empathy, but that they lack essence. They are no longer tethered to the moral or emotional fabric that binds human beings together. They move through life as actors on a stage, repeating lines, performing gestures, playing roles, but behind the curtain there is no one left. The performance is everything, because without it, they are nothing. This is the death of the soul, not a dramatic explosion, but a quiet erosion until all that remains is void. The narcissist continues to breathe, to speak, to charm, to manipulate. But the inner fire that makes a human being capable of love, growth, and redemption has been extinguished. They are not alive in the way others are alive. They are an echo, a hollow, a shadow walking through the world with no center, no light, and no possibility of return.